absolutely. Yep.
Correlation between several wells, several outcrops, and also bring in other logs, maps, and seismic, and make nice presentations. So that is like the two different applications we are having here. So the first one that you see on this screen that I actually present in Easy Graphics. It looks pretty much like a PowerPoint you can see here with a ribbon interface that goes both for EasyCore and for Easy Graphics. A ribbon interface up there with tabs as you know it from the Office application. And on the side here in Easy Graphics, you would see all the slides here along the left side here. So it should be quite easy for you if you're used to Office program to find your way through the application. And at the same time, you have the right-click option everywhere in every column. Every time you select an image, right-click and you would see all the options that is available for a drawing, for an image, for a log file, and so on. So that is basically what to say about the interface as such. EasyCore, as Cohen said, many of sedimentologists during years have been drawing with paper and pen, have been graphical, using it like CorelDRAW, Illustrator, to after the fact making some nice graphic things. Some have even had some other solutions on the market, digital solution, that are either not supported or quite cumbersome to actually use and to have the flexibility in. And the reason for trying to have or use a more, you can say more modern or more data-driven and a nice graphical solution is to save time. Because if you first draw, if you then use a graphical solution and you then go to Excel and tabulate all the data from this depth to that depth, I have a sandstone or limestone, I have these fossils and so on. It takes a lot of time to tabulate that to have the data. So in EasyCore, you have all in one. So if you go and draw something, everything is data. So just this example here, if you have drawn this sandbed up here in the example, you would know from this depth to this depth, it's sandstone and it's bioturbated. You see here the symbols. I will show you it in real time in the application. You have the data immediately when you draw it. You can make templates, or Cohen might make a template for you, I'm not sure. So all of you are following the same template with the same kind of columns that is needed for the requested project. And you have something nice looking. The last slide I will show before I show EasyCore is this. So you can actually use it in the Core lab when you're there. You're looking at the cores that are placed in all the boxes. And you can simply have your tablet in front of you. It needs to be a Windows tablet, or otherwise you can't use EasyCore. But you can use it there and simply get it in right away. It could also be that you had a quite robust tablet that you wanted to take it into the field. But as I heard from Cohen, you probably in the field will have a paper, draw it in on that paper. And when you get back into the campus, you would scan your drawn core description or outcrop description and then digitize it afterwards. It could also be that some of you would go to a ship, and you can see the picture of the two young people here sitting on a ship with the round windows here. They are, I think they are in the Mediterranean here, where they are actually making a lot of very short course or mud or material that they are describing also with EasyCore. And then the last picture here, that is the outcrop. That is what I understood from Cohen, that you would go out in the outcrop, describing what you are seeing, what layers and what you see. I don't know how deep you would go into fossils and so on, or it's only the sedimentological. But I think you said it was a little bit of the grain size and the lithology and everything, and that of course you can do as well, as you can work in depth for the cores or in heights for the outcrop, so that you are working from 0 plus up here when you work in heights, or in depth from 0 and down. So instead of working with minus, you can choose height or depth. So every depth or height registered data you can put in. You decide how many columns. So let me just bring up EasyCore here. This is EasyCore, an empty EasyCore project, and I don't want to have all this, use the header. So now I just want to focus on the different columns that you have. In the default, Freehand might make another template that you are going to use here in a couple of weeks that matches the paper that you are having in the field. And of course, Corin, if you have any questions to how to make a template exactly matching that, just let me know.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
So here in the default template, it actually says working in depth, where we like to make it work in height. Do we work in meter or in feet, Corin?
Meters.
Meters?
Yep.
Like here, let's say, I'm not doing so many outcrops here, so let me see.
Overall, they're going to start from 0.
Yeah, so
0.
the bottom would be 0. I'm just thinking
Yep.
about if I should switch it. So we just
Yep.
do like this. You, of course, give it the, I just put some letters in here. You can give, instead of the well name, you can put the location in, basin or whatever is the right like code or description of where you are. You can, of course, put here in, if I can find, it's further up here. Just wanted to see, yeah, and location and so on. But it's not for the use and for the trying of it. It's not needed that you do this. So I'll just go back, and you can see here now. It you might like to describe from bottom. Where is that? Normally you do it workflow button up. Would that be the case, Corin?
Yeah, yeah. So bottom should be 0. Yeah.
Yeah. So now I have set it to that you're describing from down and up, so you can see now my mouse is moving into the core description profile column. That is where you set the beds, the grain size, and all the admixtures of your description. So I'll just do, is it carbonate or clastic, or is it a mix, Corin?
Most of it's classics. So sandstone, mudstone, yeah.
Okay, so in that case, I think I would go and choose the lithology and make the limestone as my default, set as default. It's not necessary, but then it will not suggest sandstone all the time. You can see here.
No, I said it's going to be clastics.
Oh, you said it was clastic, so I'll just do it. I misheard you. So I'll just check. That's
so sandstone, mudstone mostly.
Yeah,
Siltstone.
so mudstone. And you have it here, like here. You can see here that I'm just, if you look up here, I'm not sure if you can see that, or I go to the top so you can see here is the Windworth classification. Claystone, siltstone, fine upper, medium lower, and so on. And it might be that you go in to customize and say, my max is not gravel, my max is very coarse upper. Then you can set it to that in here if you are not working with very coarse material. So how I came into this was that I right-click in the column to go to the customize. So you can see I changed it, and now very coarse upper is the max here. And you are familiar, I guess, already with these classification, both the Dunham classification and the classic Winworth classification, I assume.
Well, it's an advanced sedimentology lecture, so hopefully they know it.
That's good. That's good. So that was just the basic. So here,
Elaine, just a second. There's a question.
I noticed that there is no very fine grain size. You're going straight away from silt to fine upper. So where is the very fine in the scale?
very fine lower. Okay. So now the scale is, I'll go up here so you can easily see because I can zoom in. Here I put very fine lower, very fine upper, very fine lower. Was that your question?
Yes.
It's just the default was going in that range. So the first thing you think of is what should my max be and what should my minimum value be? And then it works for you and you see the value. It could also be that you say, I only want very fine and not differentiating between very fine upper and very fine lower. And you can set that as well. So it matches your template. I'm not sure how the template, I don't think you ever send the template, the paper template, but it can be fixed to whatever is needed there. It could also be, especially if you're working with very, very fine grain sizes that you even like to differentiate between silt, that silt is not just one thing. We have some of our clients that have at least 4 categories within the silt because they are working mainly in that very, 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 very fine material. And I can show you that also as an example so that you can see. And that is also in the program, so you can take your starting point from that template. So often when you are describing beds, they are not always like same grain size in the entire bed. It could be, and now I am holding down control. Those of you that has the application can of course try it, but otherwise remember control. And you can see I get a little pen, little yellow pen. So what I can do here now is that I can make a fining upwards here. I can do it again. It's not needed that I continue with it. You can have smoothing or very, very precise up and down. So in this case, for a data export, you would have the possibility to export here. It would be medium upper, and here up at the top, it would be fine lower. So that everything you draw also with the hand little pencil, you can get the data matching that. The same is with the contact. I get this little wizard for the lithology, but I also do it for my contacts. Contacts can be straight, and as default, it is straight. It might be that you wanted one undefined until you have defined whether it's straight, borrowed, or erosional. But in case here, I choose erosional, the application will know it's an erosional lag you have here. And even for that, I would be able to draw like if it's really going deep, but the application still knows that at 0.642 meters, there is an erosional lag. So if we go back to the lithology dictionary, here's the default dictionary that is available. And how I do, if I work with sandstone like here, I click on the sandstone, I get the next choice. So it's like a wizard letting you go through all these options. So let me just say this is a bioturbated sandstone. It might be that it is have some primary admixtures in it, agalicious. What could it be? Anhydritic here. And sometimes you don't want all these messy information the same place. So now I will show you how you can right click in a column and go to patterns here. And now I don't know, Korhan, would you prefer to have like very simple in the actual grain size without any dots or any admixtures, or is there any preference?
No, not really, no.
Okay, but it might be that you have a preference as a student. So you could say, I don't want to see my secondary admixture, my primary admixture, grain type here, structures. I don't want to see it in here, support. So I can say, okay. And then you only see it in your lithology dictionary, or you can choose only to see that with no sandstone. So any visualization, you decide how it should be. It could also be no sandstone here, just indicating with a pattern, no sandstone pattern. So you would see something like this. Totally customizable how you would like it to look. The application knows exactly, it's the same data. This is only about a visualization. If you go to, you can see in this case here in the default project, there is actual Winvoice classification, but then there's also a freehand tool. So if I click the freehand tool here, you have the option to draw something, but this is not data. This is something that you might want to use before you actually define what it actually is. But you have this freehand drawing tool to give you full capability of drawing things, and you can say, I don't want to see it. That's over here where you see the entire data set. And I can say, well, I want to print it now. All my scripting and small stuff, I don't want to see it. Now it's done. So that way you could also put the freehand in and say, I really have a big question mark here. That way you can work with it until you discuss it with your fellow student, or you ask Cohen about, this is really complex, I can't really see what it is, and then you have your notes with you and you can use it. So, but that was just the freehand stuff. But this part here is quite easy, even if you have an interbedded section. I don't know if that exists in the outcrops that you will be going to. But the interbedded section, you have this menu where you can choose between sandstone, it could be claystone and mudstone. You would see it here. Or you could say that we have a lot of mudstone. We could also say that it is like this. So in this case here, you indicate that there is a lot of beds. Instead of drawing each of them separate, I think I will make a sandstone here because it's easier to demonstrate. It could also even be that you wanted it to be coarser at the bottom than at the top. So in this case here, say, okay, I can zoom in, and I could even, they are quite thin. I could even say, well, all in the middle, there's some very, very fine layers that you want to illustrate. So that was the interbedded. You can, of course, have missing coarse rubble zone.
Would you please show that again? How did you go to that heterotic one?
Yes.
I missed it.
I'll just draw another one here.
Yeah.
Instead of selecting sandstone, I go down here in Interbedded.
Okay, okay,
I
yeah,
select it. I get these choices. Now it ran up in my other screen here. I get these choices. First lithology, second lithology. Also, you can set the grain size, but the main thing that you would see a different is what is the net to gross here. You can set it as percentage or just take the slider, or have many beds here. You can also set the number, and then of course you choose mudstone, sandstone, claystone, and so on, and you have these mixes in between. So that saves time if you have these thin interbedded sections.
thank you, that's amazing.
And again, when you have first made it, they are individual. So if you make a mistake here, then you can always make a direct undo of what you are doing. Because otherwise you would have these 50 different beds that you of course also can delete, but it would be easier for you to undo it if you did like a mix of two wrong lithologies or so. So that was a little about in here. Then I would like to show you some of the other options here. I'll go here down. So if I have a composition track, now I can see it's actually a problem that you are working down here because you can't see the options that is set here in my composition. You can see here is porosity, sandstone, siltstone, mudstone, claystone, and there's some carbonate, but you can choose what options. This is all about percentages. So if you have 80% sandstone and 20% mudstone, you can do it in this column. So I'll just go down. It would always suggest the first your defined sandstone, but let's say that you wanted to have a percentage of siltstone. You could do it like this. You could also do a drawing like this. Now it's porosity that is chosen here. It could be sandstone. Oh, sorry, I wanted sandstone. And then maybe claystone here. So you can draw, and when I'm drawing, I'm holding Control N. So you can draw these percentages where you think it's going like more and more claystone and so on. That is a composition track. A composition track can basically be anything, any values that you set in to be represented as percentages. Then you have all the symbols defined, predefined, and there might be symbols that you normally use that you would like to use, and you can actually draw them in EasyGraphics or you can import them from EMF files. But you can either put the symbols in a simple column, hold and drag the bioturbation here, and you will get an interval. So you can either choose a point where you know, either for instance by looking at a thin section, that you know it's bioturbated, or you can say this bed is full of trace fossils and has been very much bioturbated. Then you can add that. You could also do the same here, saying, even starting a little above or here, it's not limited to the beds, but then you can have it listed here. So in the core description profile, in specific simple columns that you add, you can have multiple simple columns. So you have your fossils in one column. Instead of calling it simple, you call it fossil, another column trace fossil, and so on. So there are no limit to where your columns are and how many columns you would like. So where the columns are, you just move around like this. Bioturbation, move it here. The bioturbation one goes here, 1, 2, a little less here, 0, 4, and so on. That is like the bioturbation with, I think here it's six values that can be changed to a different number of values. The cycles that you might like to use also can be there, and you can have like a major cycle and smaller cycles. You can even, if you don't like the color of any of it, it could be Facies colors that you don't like, you like them differently, or this, it's simply to choose the blue one and say, I really like it to be purple here, and the red is too red, so I like it to be more like this. So when I do it now here, you would see immediately that your colors are different. The same goes with if I choose my Facies here. You can see here, this is the default dictionary. There are a couple of other with different Facies, and you can add the same as before. If there's a Facies that you really miss, you go into customize. And now you can see I'll make my interface a little bigger. I go to the button, you can see here all the name, long name, short name, and index numbers. So you can add a value by clicking this little here, add value. Now it says long name 28. That is not a good name. So I'll just say a lot of X's here. A short name, 2 X's, and it's 28. It might not be white, but let's say it's yellow here. So now if I go into my Facies here, you would immediately see the new Facies that is listed here, and that is missing. You could also delete one if it's not relevant. So you can change it, and if you want to share it, or if Corin wants to share a Facies dictionary, you can just store a project and say, take your starting point at this project and use these Facies values in it. Any questions to these? These are name and index columns, where you have a name and then you have indexes and colors. It could be that you wanted to have a column called lithofacies instead of faces. You just make that. Chronostratigraphy. You have there's epoch stages and so on, and you can have several chronostratigraphy columns if you want both to show like the main bigger scale, and in smaller scale you just see it here, and then you select it from the list. Here you can see that you have these options if you wanted to go straight to the very detailed chronostratigraphy. Any questions to what I showed with regards to these columns?
Seems like everything is good so far.
Okay, so let me show how you could add another column if it wasn't there. It could, for instance, be that you wanted to have a column for thin sections, or a column for outcrop photos. I actually did that here, but now I want to, now I do it the same for thin sections here. I choose a column that behaves as you expect. So you have box numbers, color interval, no names, and so on, images that are interval like a core photo, or interval or not interval like single depth images like a thin section would be. So single depth image, I say okay, I call it thin sections like here, and I say okay, I get it in here. So if I know a specific depth that I have a thin section, I right click and say insert image. I go to, I browse for my file. If you do not have a database EasyDB set up, and I don't think you have that so far, I select where I have my thin sections, and I put, doesn't belong here, but I just put it in, and you can even see like a little, yeah, this is the right one. And you say, okay. Some of you might even see that there was an option to use the camera, the rear camera, the front camera, or to make a screen capture of something else you have on your screen and put it in. The same for an outcrop. It could be that you had I'm pretty sure, yes, I wanted to show you an example here. I'll just go and grab. Right now I have just a picture on this one here. I'll go in and say, I really like this picture here to be in. So I make I just say, I make a box crop because this is the one I want in here. I do this. Now I jump to Easy Graphics and I just say crop and keep because I want to keep the actual one. So now I select this one and I say copy. And I go into EasyCore again. And I say paste image. It won't work. Maybe it wasn't finished in Easy. Oh, it's still working on it. Now it should be good. And you got it in here. So that way you can copy and paste. You can browse for a file and open it to have like documentation of a small thing that you actually see in the outcrop and put it in here at the depth where it belongs. Now I put it in thin section, but I probably wanted to put it in here instead because that was my outcrop. So that was it. Always, if you're missing a column, look here, add data, find the one. Is it a symbol? Is it value bars? Is it name and index? What is it? Is it another notes column? You just add it. It might be that you wanted a notes and a remark column. Yeah. So with the notes, you can either click and just write something here. This is indicating here. And if you don't see, if I go into custom, text at start, it says, or text at top. That means that you see the actual depth where the note relates to. And here it was at start 2.36 meters. It could also be, and now I click and drag. Now I have an interval text so that data-wise, this here will be where this text will belong to. So interval point is an option for symbols and for notes. And of course, interval is possible for all these text and fill in name and index, like Facies, rock color. Not to mention, you have the Munsell color scheme here for the rock colors that you can pick from, or even use a color picker and find an image you have taken of the rock that you are describing and get the colors in there. And the same, you can of course choose differently. That was the rock color. Depositional environment is also in the default category here. And you see there's a lot of short names here. If we go in and have a look at the customize, you can see here the long name of it. And if I wanted a different long name, it is just, now I just say title X delta, just to let you see here that the only thing you needed to do to have a different name. Do I see it? Which one was that? Anyone remember which one I changed? I'm not sure. That was TDD. So if I go in here and choose TDD, I hold my mouse over and you can see that the X came in here. So it's just by typing it, it would change. If you don't like if it basically is the same, but you prefer a different short, different long name. Questions?
Perfect.
Okay. What else? What else? What I really want to show you is this about digitizing when you get back to the campus.
Eileen, I'm sorry, before digitizing, how can they add sample locations? Let's say they take a sample and they wanna write down the name of the sample or points, like put a point.
So here is a plug column where you could put a point.
Oh, okay.
There is also there is a, where is it? Sample dots and numbers.
Okay.
That's also an option here. So if I call it samples here, say, okay, I think I got it. I'll just zoom out so we see my samples here next to my plugs. Now I will be able to write 1 here, 2 here, and so on. Or it could be simply that you made this plug and then you made a notes column next to it and described what it was.
Mm-hmm.
So you can, if you wanted that, let me see here, I could group. No, I wanted to go in here. That's also something that could be quite interesting for you to for instance, group 2 columns. If these notes were all about the plugs or all about the samples, you right click here and now you say create side-by-side group and you call it sample text. I don't know. Okay. So now you would see here that if I move this, I move them together.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So now I could write here a text that was to this sample 1, and I could write very, very bioturbated. And then you have the note there.
One more question. So let's say if we have gamma ray or XRD results or XRF results, can you also, let's say, input that data into this graph?
Yes. What I will do, I would simply take a project where I do have log data and a photo that belongs, because then it's more interesting to see when things are matching. So I will open a project here. This is not an outcrop, but it works the same. So I will go in and take this one here and open a project where I have removed the log data, which is gamma ray and phi value, and I have removed the core photo so you can see how you can get it in. So Cohen asked about this log data. So if I go to the log data column, you can have several log data column if you want. We have a project that has like 20 different log data column with all kind of data, chemical information, the gamma ray, of course, the grain sizes and everything. So now I right click on the log data column and say import from file. And then I go to my demo projects and my EasyCore files and my projects, because that is where I have it here. And you can see I have a comma separated value file here that include gamma ray and phi. So I click on that. And at first I get a little verification. Did I click open? No. Here, validate data, that everything looks right. I have my depth here, I have a gamma ray, I have the phi meter, everything looks good. I have an options here to add, replace, or append data. And of course, in this case, I just want to add it because I have no data. It could be that you inserted a wrong data set. Then, of course, you choose replace. And it might be that you had one data set going in one depth range or height range and another one. Then, of course, you would append it. But right here, there are no issues. Everything is working. And as soon as I click here, you can see here that the data, the phi data, the gamma ray data is in here as a log curve, as two log curves actually. You have different options of fill with log data. You can fill between two curves, or you can fill positive or negative fill. So let me first try to show you a add fill between curve. So now I just added, I don't change the colors. It's going from blue to red here. Then it looks like this. It could also be, I remove it here. So it could be, I right click again, customize. Let me just work on the gamma ray. And let me try to use a gradient fill. And I don't know in this case what would be really relevant. You can have like two colors, even more colors. So in case I wanted to add one here, it could be that it should be yellow, some kind of yellow, I don't know, like this. So that you would see where the threshold holds are between different values where it should be, or you can of course have cut off values if you want that. So let me just now try to show this. So in this case, you would see the mid ranges as yellow, the small range as red, and the large one as blue. And it could also be that you didn't want to see the phi, and you say, I want to remove it. And now you have an option, either remove it entirely or just remove it from this column. And in my case here, I just want to remove it from the column. So now I just have one data set in my column, and I could then add another one, find my log data, and say, okay. I get the question, do you want to stay with paper or just make it bigger, as depending on need. I'll just put my log data here, make it a little wider. And right now, I just have to remember which is which. So gamma ray use, so I want to use my phi value here. Right click, I say customize. I go here up to add. And from the list, I find phi, which I didn't delete from the project, just from the column. And I say, okay. And I got it in here. I don't need it so wide. So it will just, you can see up here at the top, it would tell where it went from 0 to 5 here, the range. And for your gamma ray, from 75 to 125. When it then comes to export, sometimes you need to export as phi, sometimes you need to export as millimeters, and both is possible. So let me try now to show you the data export. And I just want to select all, but this dummy here I don't want. So I just say, now it's depth point, so everything is listed. It could also be interval or fixed interval every half meter that you can choose. But you have these options, tab separated, comma separated, Excel and so on. So I'll just say refresh. So now it's all my depth here, straight contact here, bioturbated, Bayesian abundant. You see the gamma ray, and you see the phi here. Let me just try to say the interval, and let me go here. So let's have a look at the phi. You can see it's phi value here, but let me show you how you can change the grain size. Under options, say I don't want phi, I want millimeters, and then it's here. You do a refresh, and then you have, if I can find it, here, a little further, grain size. Here you have the millimeter in grain sizes. So that was very short about the data export. So basically, depending on the application, you might like to bring it into TechLog, or you might like to bring it into Petrel. Then you should think about, what do you think Petrel would prefer, or the project that you want to import it in is set up to. So then you can make some data that is fitting to that need. So that was a question about, Kohan, about the data that you can import into a project. For the core photos, which is interval images, I can show you here an example. And again, I right-click in my photo column. I say insert images, select from file, and I go to the same folder as before, where I had core files. I have my projects, and I have this remove data. I think it will come soon. Where is it? Come on. Just takes a little while. And I have these two photos. If you have photos that include the depth, top and bottom, it's much easier for you to import it, because then the application just automatically put the images in where it belongs to. So I say okay here, and you can see I have two images, but you can also see, if I zoom in here up at the top, there's something that really is not part of the core photo. It's just like, it could be part of the box. It could be part of, just when the scan has been made. So I'll just crop it, go to the button, crop it again. And this is done on all images. So when I go to the other one, it's cropped the same. It could be that the last one was halved. Then you just choose individual images and make the other one shorter. But right here, you can see it gave me the top and the bottom depth, 2104 to 2108, the first one, and the second one, a different, just below it. So now you see here, with the cropping, I inserted the two images that were stitched together according to their depth. If you don't have the depth as part of the name, you were just supposed to assign a depth in the same interface as before. And you can clearly see here, if you look at the images, where there are some sandstone indicated up here, sandstone here. So you can see it is images and data that belongs to this actual project. Sometimes, and that now the file that I bring in is not a part of this, but to show you, and you probably see a lot of this, 2112, I just put it in at this depth. I right-click, say insert images, and I select it from file, and I go to EasyCore files, and I take core photos, and at the bottom here, you see an example like this, where you have multiple cores in the same box. The way you deal with that is simply that you say, I need 4 columns. 4 columns like this. I move it so it fits the actual image, like here. I do the same as I did a little crop. 0 here. And now there are no information about this, but I can see here that they are, now it's in feet. We assume it's in meter just because the project is in meter here. So it is 3 by 4. So I go in and say it should start at, oh, did I write it right? I think it was 2,112. I'm not totally sure I wrote it right. And then I would say 12 here. And you can see I started here. So now you can see that all these 4 cores is now coming after each other down. So this is a process that takes quite a long time to do it in graphical application, where you just don't have this option to set the depth and to get them stitched one after each other. Some of you might even say here, why isn't it filling the entire column? And that would depend on the images, and that would depend on the scale. Up here in the Home tab, you set a scale. So if I set it to 1 to 4, you can see it's filling more. But if I set it to 1 to 60, it's not filling more than this. I could then say, here's my core. It's very narrow, but that fits the actual position of the core. There is a magnifier, so in case you are working with it could be even 1 to 200, like very rough description. Then you have a magnifier over here that you can even detach here, put it on another screen if you are so lucky to have more screens. And then when I'm moving up and down here, you can see where you are. You see the dashed line across, so you know exactly where you are. I'll also say here and go up here. So if I want to start in the middle, I click and drag. Otherwise, it would just start here. Can you see the difference?
Can you overlay the gamma ray on the description or on top of the?
Yes. The way I want to do there is I would take my core description profile and my, that was a gamma ray. Which one was that? That might be this one. And say right click, overlay group, call it lith gamma, GR. Okay. I didn't do it right, seems to. I'll just say undo. I'll just do it again. Find the right thing here. Just seeing what maybe I wanted to move it up here. You can see I'm just moving it. Core description, log data, right click, and create overlay group. That should be it. LGR. Just don't wanna. Yeah. Now it's switched, so I probably not sure, but it might be that you wanted to have it like there here, moving it from and then you wanted to, but you can see that now I have a fill. I don't want to have the fill, so I go to customize. No, that is my log data. That should be activated. Say, I don't want, no, I have no fill, because otherwise you can't see through it. So now you are seeing something like this. Was that what you asked for, Corin?
Yes.
So, so of course, if you have like a lot of filled stuff on top of each other, something would be hidden if you're not making them semi-transparent. But this is an option. You can of course make them have something like this. Change the colors if you want that. So, so I think the easiest for me is to start just a new project, and also to show you how to start a new project. I click on new project. There are these 3 defaults. I'll just take the default. I create a project. I don't need to do anything, maybe accept meters. It could be here. So now, well, I'm not so used to work from bottom and up, so I'll just take it from top here for my demo here. So I right click and I say insert core description image. That would be the image that you are scanning in from your actual field trip. And that might only be that you want it separated, so you only like concentrate on the actual core description profile. So what I do here is that I go to demo. I have some EasyCore files, and I have a hand drawn, and I have this example here. It starts at 8,406. So I'll just open that. And I'll just, I will need to set my project to this 8,406. It says I'm out of the range, so I will just go in here, 8,406, if I could write. And then it was it 15? I'm not sure, but let's have a look. So now you can see that it is coming in quite big. So what I can do, the first thing I would do is that I would change my scale to match the inserted image that I have, approximately at least. So I see something that looks pretty okay. You can see here, if I scroll down. Don't want to deal because I want to right click, and I want to make my image core description semi-transparent so I can look through it. So if I do this, and you can see here, I could also hold my mouse. Oh, didn't release it. Like here, and you could do like just rough, like this. And now I'm just making it very rough. And I can always decide what it is if it is not sandstone. Now I'll just make a little here. Here. So now you can actually see through. I don't know if you can see it, but you can still see all the scribblings that is below that you can continue. So that would be the process, making it semi-transparent so you can look through, and then just start to produce it. I can change it to, so it would be more relevant. So here, just do it like this. And when I'm ready, I can just say customize, and I will go to image and say, well, I just want to see it's perfectly fine here. And then you would see it. You can even do more modification if you wanted to do that. So directly on top, you would have these options to draw. It could also be that I wanted to start here and go further. So I hold and drag. And the same here. I can go into unconformity lines, erosion, and so on. So basically, if you insert an interval image in the core description profile, you would get it as an underlay to the core description profile. Any questions to EasyCore before we have this short break and come into this amazing presentation tool that I will show you after the break?
I have a question.
Oh, just a second.
Yeah.
There's one question.
How do you put the pencil? How, I mean, I don't see, I didn't see how do you can.
To get the pen?
The pencil, yes.
Yes. Sorry. I hold control, the key control in the corner. So if I hold control, it would appear.
Okay.
Alternative, you can say view if you prefer, and have a little pencil toggle here. So if it's selected, it will always be there. But then you don't switch easily between like this, or if it's not there, it would make these squares. That's alternative to control, especially if you are so lucky, so you have a little stylus to your Windows tablet and you want to draw that. Then it's nice to have this because you don't have the right-click option the same way. But for the mouse, I think control is so easy to use because you switch easily between the pencil and the boxes.
Helen, if you see the hand-drawn one, it's showing changing in the grain size without the horizontal beds that you're drawing in the digital one. How do you do this? Like coarser and finer, without the horizontal break between beds for laminate.
Once again, I'm not sure.
If you see the hand-drawn one,
Yeah.
there are changes in grain size, but without the horizontal break that you have. When you do it digitally, you're putting a horizontal break.
So like this.
Yeah. Okay, now it's better because the previous one was showing a lot of breaks.
Yeah, but that is because I made a lot of thin beds when I was drawing it. So anytime if you have a bed like this, you can like draw any kind of shape in. If it was very long, if I just, we are at the bottom now already. So going out here, I can just extend it a little bit to 30. So I will have more down here. So you can have a very long one here and make it exactly going as you believe it is. What didn't it do it? Like this. So the small ones were simply because when I was digitizing it, I made a thin bed for each of them, and it might be that you want to in the workflow. Here's some snapping, interval, grain size, contacts, and so on. That auto smoothing if you don't want it as smooth, or even more, then you can work with these parameters of points for the snapping. And see here, if I remove these and if I draw something, it should be more, it would give the exact, if you want it detailed. If you can see the difference between what I was drawing before, where it gave like a more straight finding upwards than now, where all my shaking hand movement will be represented. So, any other questions to EasyCore? I know that when you start yourself, there would probably come some new questions up, I'm sure, because that happens for everyone, even in the most professional 20 years experienced sedimentologists would have questions. So
Exactly. Yeah. There's one more question. Just give me a second though.
So if I have already an Excel sheet that already I interpreted before and have like for each facies or each lithology, like a numbers for each one, or an Excel sheet that exported from Petrel or Techlog. So there is any way that I can directly import it in EasyCore and it will draw it.
yes, there is some options. What you need to do to make sure that the format is understood is that I would draw like a couple of beds in EasyCore, and then I would go up to export project data, and I would export it so that you can see the format that EasyCore needs to understand to get the grain sizes in, to get the faces, so you know the formatting. So the recommendation is draw a couple, see the format, see that the data you have in Excel is matching, or add a column or whatever is needed to make the data fit. It could be something about top depth and a bottom depth, and you can see how it's actually needed to insert that into EasyCore. And if you have any questions in that process, then let's take another Q&A about this specific thing. But the good thing is, try something simple, export it, and import it again when it is similar